Hey, drivers and dreamers, as you can see, I have an empty trailer, which means bath time for the trailer. That is not me. I already had mine last month. So this trailer is a nasty, filthy mess, as you're about to see in this video what it looked like before we unloaded it. But check all this out. Look at all this oil all over there, it runs all the way back to there. This was from a previous one that leaked really bad, and it's got a lot of dirt on it now. It's all back into the suspension. And it's all up over the back of my truck. It's just everywhere. However, little problem. So paperwork prints us dispatches a vehicle that's supposed to be a roll brake and steer in-op. Not a big deal. We got a winch. Problem is, we get here and we knew ahead of time it had no key and it was a theft recovery, so we assumed the steering wheel had been jacked up so you could steer it. However, locked tight. So we got a solution for that, but our solution is going to be on our members only channel for training purposes. Bottom line is, we're going to get it loaded. In the meantime, check out this mess. Well, guys, we've offloaded that big old diesel truck that apparently decided it needed to change oil all over the top of this one. So it's run down the windshield, down off both sides, onto the trailer. Nasty, nasty mess. But it'll wash off, and old motor oil, I've never seen it hurt paint, so I'm not terribly worried about it. But we get these two units off, and we got to take this truck for a bath. Look at the back of this truck. It's splashed up in it. The whole trailer's a nasty mess. Got other vehicles leaking. You see that bottom deck down there. Look how nasty it is. Back dude's all nasty. Definitely time for a bath. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. Now, our bill of lading clearly states on it that we're not responsible for that because we didn't cause it. We can't do a whole lot to prevent it. There is some you can do at times depending on how bad it is. We didn't know it was that bad. We loaded the vehicle, that big old Dodge Ram. Get away from that truck so you can hear me. And the next morning, we get out looking, and it was just covered all over the top of that van. Well, by that point, it was too late. So not a lot you can do with it or any reason to mess with it at that point. And since it was going to a dealership that's going to detail it anyway before they put it on their lot to sell, we figure, well, most people are reasonable. Shouldn't be a big deal. Well, they had an issue with it. And the broker had an even bigger issue with it. The broker told me I needed to pay for them to wash that vehicle. Now, I realize there's two schools of thought on that. So years ago, when I first got into the business, I made a rookie mistake. Yeah, I make those once in a while. I don't like admitting it, but I do. And when I do make one, I will admit it. So I made a rookie mistake, and that rookie mistake was a very expensive one. I pulled up to a gentleman that I was hauling a Ferrari, I believe it was, for, and get away from this truck so you can hear me. He pulled up and said, "Hey, these clutches are a little different. They're really different. Would you like me to drive it on the trailer for you?" Well, I'm an easygoing guy. I was like, "Sure, no problem." I figured the guy knew how to drive his car, and I didn't want to get his clutch hot or mess his car up in front of him anyway, So I was like, "Sure, go ahead." Well, long story short, he drove it off the side of the trailer because he refused to pay attention to my instructions and was listening to his daughter that was standing out beside the car, and she couldn't see whether he was centered or not. So he listened to her, and he drove it off the side of the car, and of the car hauling trailer, and he did a little damage to it. Well, I was able to recover the vehicle and get it loaded, no problem, with a jack and a couple boards and a little common sense. Problem was, he told me it was my responsibility to fix it. And I was like, "But sir, I wasn't driving." He said, "It doesn't matter. It happened on your trailer. That makes it your responsibility. Right there, folks, is what's wrong with America today. People who refuse to take responsibility for their own actions and decisions and choices and expect to be able to make anybody else pay for their own mistakes except for them. Okay? That, in my opinion, is one of the big problems with America. And that is one side of two schools of thought. The side I'm on is, if I damage your stuff, it's on me. I'm going to pay for it. If I'm not the one that damaged it, then it's not on me. I don't care if it was on my trailer when it happened or not. I didn't do it. It's not on me. Or on you as a driver. If you didn't do it, it's not on you. As a customer, I also live by that policy. I'm not going to blame somebody for something they didn't do and expect them to pay for it. It's just not right. Not everybody cares about right and wrong. So, that messy vehicle you just saw, and I've delivered a number of those over the years, when you have a surprise leak. You didn't know it was going to be a leaky vehicle, and your load will only fit together one way, so you can't put the leaky vehicle on the bottom. Sometimes you can do something to prevent the leak, but when it's as bad as that one was, there's just not much you can do with it. So, customer called the broker and let him know that the vehicle was extremely dirty, very oily. The broker is apparently one of those liberal progressives that thinks that everything should be provided and everybody else should pay for something besides them. So he called me and was really upset, telling me that I needed to go back and take that vehicle to a car wash and wash it. Well, I said, look, in the first place, the customer selected open transport. Secondly, he did not specify the vehicle had to be on the top deck. Broker's like, well, you never said anything about it needing to be on the top deck. I said it didn't specify in the ad that you placed on Central that you wanted it to be a top deck unit, so there was no reason for me to bring it up. If you specify that you want it as a top deck load only, and you're not paying well enough for it to be a top deck load, because my top deck spaces are worth far more money than the bottom deck spaces, then I'm going to negotiate that with you. But since you didn't specify it, there was no reason for me to even bring it up. I put it where it fit, and I transported it. And since that dealership was going to detail the vehicle anyway, a little more soap and water, and it's clean. It's just engine oil. Engine oil doesn't hurt paint. Brake fluid, sometimes maybe, but not engine oil. Well, he said he understood all of that, and he definitely understood where I was coming from with it. Said he even agreed with me. Then he turned around and said, but it doesn't matter because the customer's not happy. Again, that's what's wrong with America. Letting the customers dictate what is and isn't right, rather than setting clear, defined, reasonable boundaries. I get the customer's always right mentality, and I understand that to a point that makes sense, but only when it actually makes sense. So I offered to pay for the car wash. I said, look, he said, you should have given the guy $20 to wash his vehicle. I said, okay, this was not a COD, so take $20 off the top of our pay, deduct it from him so he can wash his vehicle. Broker refused. So now he was just trying to make a point, I guess, because, when you try to work with a guy and he turns it down, and then he turns around and says, look, in the future, don't bother calling me for loads, because I don't like the way you do business. Okay? I sent him a copy of the bill of lading, which is what really got him upset, because my bill of lading says that if I didn't cause the damage, I'm not responsible for it. And these people signed that bill of lading with their two vans sitting in their parking lot, and then told the broker that they had signed it before it was offloaded off the trailer. All right, well, there's two problems with that. Number one, they're flat out lying about it. Number two, if that was actually true, then shame on them for signing on a vehicle they hadn't inspected yet. I don't allow customers to climb around on my trailer anymore after that little Ferrari incident. And if a customer was dumb enough to sign off on a vehicle without inspecting it, then shame on them. I made sure both vehicles were sitting in their parking lot before I went in the office to get a signature, fully expecting them to come out and do a thorough inspection, which he didn't do. He signed the bill of lading in his office. I went back out to my truck, putting straps up, getting ready to go, and one of the guys walked up to me from the dealership and said, hey man, this vehicle's really dirty. I said, yeah, I apologize for that. I pointed out all the oil all over my truck and said, I'm about to go spend 120 bucks on a truck wash to clean the mess up off my truck and trailer. And I said, but it's just engine oil, and since you're going to have to wash it, detail it anyway, it should clean right up. He says, okay, well, as long as it does, everything's good. Reasonable kind of guy, right? All right, so it was after that I got the phone call from the broker. So when the broker saw my bill of lading, and he sees that it says I'm only responsible for damages that I actually cause, that I'm not responsible for damages that I can't prevent, that if a customer chooses to ship their vehicle open transport, that they are assuming the risk, the inherent liability of paying for a cheaper transport than enclosed by shipping their vehicle open transport. Because you think about it, if you want your vehicle to arrive all spit polished and clean with no chance of a rock ding or a branch scratch or whatever on it, then you need to pay the additional money for enclosed transport. Not expect to put all that off on the driver that can't control a rock coming up off the road, or they can't control the oil drips from top deck vehicles. My bill of lading actually says that if you ship your vehicle and it's leaking oil and it gets on somebody else's car, you're the responsible party for that, not the driver that can't prevent it. It's the person shipping the vehicle that leaks that is responsible for that. That's the way it should be. The person who causes the problem should be the person who is responsible, not the middle party that has nothing to do with it. They can't prevent it. There's nothing they can do about it, or very, very little they can do about it. And in this case, there was no other place I could put that vehicle and make it fit well, so it went where it fit. Now, I had no idea it was going to get that nasty, but I don't know that I could have done anything different about it if I had known. It was probably a full quart of oil that had dripped all over the top of that van and run down the windshield and off. It actually ran in behind the front fenders and dripped out the bottom, so you didn't really see it on the fenders, but it was kind of nasty. So after the broker saw my bill of lading, he asked me not to call him for loads anymore because he said, I don't like doing business with people that won't take responsibility for anything that happens on their trailer. Really? Well, right there's, again, part of the problems with America. That kind of an attitude. Let's just blame it all on the transporter, no matter whose fault it is, no matter what. And then he went into the fact that, well, actually, I brought it up. So when we picked this vehicle up, these two vans were supposed to be in the same location. Well, he gave us an address. We drove there, and they weren't there. That happens sometimes. We had about a 50-mile backtrack, so almost 100 miles round trip out of our way to an address that these two vehicles did not exist. They ended up being at a completely different Mannheim in two completely separate lots at Mannheim. So he gave us an extra 50 bucks. And I appreciated that. I didn't argue about it. I didn't give him a hard time over the 4 hours we sat and waited. All the lost time that we had in 4 hours at $100 to $150 an hour lost revenue. And look, pretty little pup. But after he was making such a big deal over the little bit of oil, I said, well, look, let's look at the other end of this. He said, I lost 4 hours because I was given an improper address. I said, I'm not blaming you for that. I said, I realized the customers didn't do their due diligence in getting you the correct information. Which, as soon as he contacted them, told him it was the wrong address. Said, oh, yeah, right, yeah, they're at a different address, and he gave the customer gave him the correct address, which he immediately gave to us. The guy was great to work with. I mean, really, he was a great broker to work with, the kind of broker you always want to work with. Until it came to responsibility, he wants the carrier to be responsible for anything and everything, and he thinks it's just wrong if the carrier just doesn't say, oh, yep, okay, I'll pay that speeding ticket even though it wasn't me, or whatever the case is. It just, that kind of an attitude is a problem. And he keeps treating clients that way. He's going to have a hard time staying in business. And I did tell him I appreciated the 50 bucks. I really did. I said, but if I wanted to really, to be all business about this, I would have sent him an invoice for $400 in lost revenue, time-wise, plus my lost mileage. I said, that would have been a lot more than the 50 bucks. But I said, I didn't make a big deal out of it because stuff happens. You just roll with it. You move on with it. Just like I would think somebody would just move on with having a little bit of oil on top of their car, or a lot of oil. Since you got to give the thing a bath anyway, put a little more soap in the bucket and go for it. Well, anyway, that's my rant and rave for the day. Hope y'all are doing great. I'm gonna go see how this car's coming, see if we can get it loaded yet. Guys, this is fun stuff. We're in Mannheim, cruising around the semi-truck trying to find our vehicle. Check it out. With the trailer behind us, you can see it. So we're here to get an in-op, is what the reason why they allowed us in here with the truck, and supposedly we can drive straight to it if Paperwork Princess can read the map she took a picture of on the wall. Where am I going?
Hello, everybody. It's that way.
I think she's lost.
It's that way.
She's guessing.
Turn right, man. Speed limit 9.5 miles per hour.
That'll get your attention. The speed limit is 9.5 miles per hour in here. Oh look, they can load it for us.
No, they can't. They left it for us.
I wonder if
It's
the
that
key's
white
in it.
van right there.
Oh cool, here's our van. We can turn around and back right up to it.
I think.
There should be our van right there. We're going to check first. Right, guys, we're going to use that winch mounted right there to put that van backwards all the way up on that front deck, past the winch. Well, here we go. Slow and steady. She's pushing her buttons again. I'm at her mercy. That's a scary thing. I'm trying to remember if I did anything to upset her today. She's able to hit the release button and send me flying. So we run a chain from there, down to there, and from over there, down to there. I know it's hard to see in the dark, but Paperwork Princess is putting those on. I've already strapped the front tires, and I'm getting ready to lower this down as soon as she's done over there, and then I will double check my height. And I already know I'm not at 14 just by looking at it, but the thing is, even if you're 13.8, you want to know exactly what you are so that when you see a low bridge, you'll know what you can do and what you can't do. So here it comes. Alright, it's all the way down. Now let's check our height. Alright, right there we are. Look at there. 13 feet, 4 inches. Beautiful. Alright. One more in-op done. Probably took us 30 minutes or so to deal with the sorry thing though. But that's alright. It's part of the job.
So guys, we just got the truck washed and I just put greasy handprint on the driver's side. I'm the reason we can't have nice things. I closed the door with my gloves on.
Nasty. Just paid 126 bucks for a truck wash.
121.
Oh well, whatever. Okay, then I guess that makes it okay with the greasy handprint inside the truck.
It's a working truck. That's like saying it's not okay for there to be dirt on a hammer.
Yeah. Alright. This is one thing I like about Cottrell. You have these nice little pockets back here in the back, designed specifically for your height stick, which is really cool.
Come here, doggo.
Hard to see in the dark, but still cool. Alright, very, very precise about their speed limit. Oh, and I'm not supposed to have any handheld devices while driving on the lot. So, oops.
Rule breaker.
This van is leaking gas all over my straps, my spare tires, my ladder, my wiring harness, all over the place.